Morning, everybody. It's Tuesday, and here we go. Orioles gained a half a game yesterday because the White Sox destroyed the Yankees 12-2. So that's fun. Orioles get the Nationals tonight. They get them for 2 games, and then we get the Red Sox for 4. Red Sox are trying to fall out of the playoff race. Hopefully, we can help that cause this weekend. But first, we got to get these first 2 against the Nationals. If we just do, we got to treat that. We had the off day, so we'll see what the lineup is. See how Rogers pitches tonight and we'll talk about tomorrow. So Pirates game yesterday, I was right about the game. It was a close game. It was 2-1. The under was easy. Should have done the under for the first 5 innings. Probably should have just done the under for both teams also, but I didn't, and I split because Solano could get a hit, and it is what it is. So 1-1 there. Let's start talking football. I was thinking about. I was saying it yesterday. I was thinking about the preview and how I wanted to do it. And I feel like the best way to do it is to just say, what bets have I made? And like, let's keep rolling because I still need a couple of weeks to fully analyze everything that's happening. I want to see, there's going to be major injuries. So before we lock any bets in or have any firm predictions, there's a lot more that I need to see. But there's one team in particular that I've already placed a bet for their regular season wins. I'm extremely optimistic about this team. And a large part of my optimism about this team, I'm pessimistic about another team. So I'm going to talk about 2 bets that I'm ready to make. And let's start football. So let's go with the first one, the Colts. I love the Colts this year. It's over 8.5 wins. It's my favorite bet of any team. Anthony Richardson. So I'm betting on 2 things. The quarterback, Anthony Richardson, played only a couple games last year, really flashed. I mean, he is just a physical specimen, and I think he's going to be great. However, the main reason I'm betting on the Colts is the coach. Shane Steichen, I think, is the best offensive mind. I know it's going to be a big statement, but I really do think he's the best offensive mind in the game right now. I thought what he did last year went under the radar about how amazing of a job he did. If you just think about it, it was his first year as a head coach. The quarterback is a rookie quarterback, gets hurt. He's got to go with Gardner Minshew. The owner is a flaming like train wreck. Like we don't even have to go into that, but so the running back Jonathan Taylor's out for the first 4 games. The owner's riding around in a golf cart in the summer, making weird quotes, and Steichen is never had this job before, right? He was the Eagles' offensive coordinator, and that Colts offense was so dynamic. They should have beat the Texans. They should have been in the playoffs. If you guys remember that last game, I think it was a Saturday night, and it was essentially for the division. And the winner was going to get the playoffs, get the home playoff game. And Stroud was fantastic. I mean, he is so clutch. But Minshew's got the ball. They're going down the field. I think it was 4th and 1. And they're driving, and the guy's wide open, and Minshew just makes a bad pass. It's short and falls incomplete, and that's the end of the season. But the Colts still got 9 wins. I can't believe it's only 8.5. I think it's great value. The Colts skill players are vastly underrated. Like they have Michael Pittman, who I'm doing off the top of my head. I don't think there's 15 receivers I'd rather have. I think he's right there, like, in that top 15, probably towards the end of the 15. But Michael Pittman, big target, really reliable. I like him a lot. They got a kid, Josh Downs, who's good. They got a little white guy, Alec Pierce, who great in the slot, made a couple really tough catches last year for the Colts. Their tight end situation is a little but they have a great offensive line. They're loaded at the offensive line. They got Jonathan Taylor. They made some improvements on the defensive side. They have an opportunistic defense. I love the Colts. I don't like that division. I think the Jaguars and the Titans are, I guess they could win 8 or 9 games, but they also could win 4 or 5. It's not a super strong division. Texans will be good, and that's the week 1 matchup, Texans at Colts, so that should be interesting. But I like the Colts. I like Steichen a lot. And that's what I look for when I'm betting. Primarily future bets, but even during the regular season, like each game for the NFL starts with the coaches. Who's the head coach? Who's the offensive coordinator? Who's the defensive coordinator? Because unlike the NBA, there's not groupthink in the NFL, right? In the NBA, everybody runs the same offense, which is why nobody enjoys watching NBA basketball unless you're betting on it because it's just boring. It just is. NFL football is not. There's different schemes. There's different ideas. It feels like it's always evolving. Um, And the Colts, I believe, are ahead of the game. Steichen, I mean, hell, the Eagles should have won the Super Bowl. I mean, he dialed up a perfect game in that Super Bowl, and they just couldn't get off the field. They just needed one stop to stop Patrick. They couldn't do it. Steichen's fantastic. I love the Colts this year, and I hate the Eagles. And I think it's the correlation of leadership and lack thereof in Philadelphia. If you haven't had a chance, go on ESPN.com. It's been I think about 6 days ago. Read the article. Maybe I'll post it in the chat. I should start doing that. Read the article, ESPN. Let me make sure I give credit to the guy, Tim McManus and Jeremy Fowler. What a wild story. If you read this story, I feel like everyone that reads the story has got to bet the under on the Eagles win total. It's 11 wins. And the only reason why it's that high is because the Giants and Commanders are projected to be two of the worst teams in the league. The NFC East has not had a repeat division winner in forever. So the odds are, I think it's like 20 some years. So the Cowboys won it last year. It's hard for anybody to talk themselves into the Giants or the Commanders. And the Cowboys headlines during the offseason, not paying Prescott, not paying CeeDee Lamb, not paying Micah Parsons, having Mike McCarthy as a lame duck coach. Most people aren't super excited about the Cowboys. So by default, you land on the Eagles. Maybe you say they win 5 out of their 6 division games. And then, yeah, I guess they could get to 11 or 12 wins. I just don't see it. I think the Giants or the Commanders will be better. I don't think both of them will be terrible. I actually have a weird feeling the Giants will be like, I think they're going to be more competitive than people think. Commanders, not so much. But so let's go through the Eagles and let me kind of summarize the main points of the article and why I feel like the Eagles are destined to be a dumpster fire this year. Jalen Hurts, quarterback, Nick Sirianni, the head coach, no relationship whatsoever. Like the article's filled with essentially Nick Sirianni wants to run the same offense that they ran when they went to the Super Bowl. Shane Steichen and Sirianni were good friends. They coached together in Los Angeles. If it's not, I think the quote was, if it's not broke, if it ain't broke, why fix it? Whatever. Jalen Hurts has the Lamar Jackson syndrome, which is I'm rich now and I want to be considered a throwing quarterback. I don't want to run. I don't want to get hit, which I guess for their careers, probably better. If you're a Ravens fan, if you're an Eagles fan, you're like, actually, I like it when you guys run, especially knowing that the other team is terrified when you run. So Hurts doesn't want to do that, wants to throw the ball down the field, and it leads to bickering. The weird part was that they had their new offensive coordinator from last year was a guy named Brian Johnson, who is friendly with Jalen Hurts' father. So they brought him in there seemingly to work with Jalen now that Steichen's gone. But it was almost like Sirianni felt like he's losing power. They're doing things behind his back. So he's coming into meeting rooms and it makes the situation extremely awkward. All the quotes in there just like toxic, toxic, toxic. So how'd the Eagles fix it? What did they do in the offseason? I think they made it even worse. So they bring in Kellen Moore, who was the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. I mean, he must have great agent, great PR because he continues to get great press. He hasn't done a great job. Just the reality. I don't think he's an alpha. I don't know. Something about him. I'm not the biggest fan, but he's now the offensive coordinator. And according to this article, in the spring, Sirianni got in front of the whole team and basically had like a mea culpa where everything was my fault last year, kind of trying to be humble, take it, whatever. And I just feel like that's bullshit. I don't think he believes that. I think if you read the article and you read the reporting from last year, most of the blame goes to the quarterback, not to the head coach. The quarterback, 24 years old, and no one thought he was a dynamic Super Bowl quarterback. That's why he went in the second round. That's why he was benched for Tua in Alabama. So Jalen Hurts doesn't have this resume, doesn't have, the cachet that some of the other guys have. And Steichen and Sirianni constructed a perfect offense. They get to the Super Bowl. They're about to win the Super Bowl. Then he gets paid. And now he wants to do things his way. He wants to evolve. And I'm with the coach on this one. If it's not broke, why are we trying to fix it? Like, what are we doing? Like that Eagles run, the RPOs with Jalen Hurts they were impossible to stop. And they wanted to switch it. Then there's a couple things in there that I think are worth discussing that are even more ridiculous. So there's one quote that's 20-17. Eagles are losing to the Seahawks. They're at midfield with 20 some seconds left last year at the end of the game. And Hurts, they need about 10, 15 yards to get Elliott, their kicker, for a field goal. And instead, Hurts throws, 30, 40-yard bomb down the field to A.J. Brown. It gets intercepted. Game's over. Seahawks beat the Eagles. After the game, Sirianni has this weird quote where, they asked, why didn't you just try to get 10, 15 yards? And he was like, well, we were trying to throw the ball deep down the field to potentially get a pass interference call, which, there's a lot of eye rolling and like, that sounds like a dumb idea. It turns out that actually wasn't what was happening. Sirianni was covering for Hurts because according to A.J. Brown, the receiver, he comes out and says, actually, Hurts and I improvised on that play. You did what? At the end of the game with 13 seconds left? Remember when McCann bunted and they got with 2 strikes and Hyde came out a few months ago and was like, that's what McCann wanted to do. I'm like, so he just gets to do whatever he wants. James McCann, he decides he wants to bunt with 2 strikes and a guy on third. It's like, that doesn't seem like the right way to manage. Anyway, certain guys get certain privileges. Jalen Hurts does not have that authority to be like, you know what? I'm just going to throw the ball down the field here in my 3rd year as a court. Like, I don't know what he's thinking. Sirianni covers for him. And then in that same article, it came out that at week 4 earlier in the year, the Hurts and the offensive coordinator, they have a play. They wanted to throw the ball on 3rd and long. And Sirianni gets on the headset, overrules it, makes them run the ball. They don't get it and they punt. And as you're digesting the article, you're going through it, you're like, oh, it's pretty obvious. The head coach doesn't think his quarterback is amazing, right? And feels like it's got to be a system. We got to micromanage certain things. And the quarterback is, you can't tell the quarterback anything. I'm so down on the Eagles this year. So what do? They make the change to bring in Kellen Moore. Then they bring in Vic Fangio, which maybe 10 years ago, Vic Fangio would be great. Maybe even 5 years ago. This is just, you're trying to put lipstick on a pig here. That Eagles defense is not, there's a lot of holes. They drafted 2 corners. CJ Gardner-Johnson, their safety, is, I think, a bad leader. And he's, I guess, the leader in the secondary with him and Darius Slay, both older. I don't expect them to be as dynamic. Their front 4 is some younger guys that they're from those national championship teams in Georgia, and they've been backups for most of their career for the first couple of years. Now they're going to be starters. I don't know. I got a bad feeling about the Eagles. I think the Packers will kick their ass in Brazil. And then they play the Falcons on Monday night for those first 2 games. I don't know. Eagles start 0-2 and they're going to have a big problem. And they were 10-1 last year, and the quotes are like, everybody's miserable. And that's with Jason Kelce on the team. Now there's no Jason Kelce. The offensive line is still talented, but who's the leader of the team? I don't know. They bring in Saquon Barkley. He's got to touch the ball. Are you going to force feed him the ball? The Eagles seem like they don't know exactly what they're doing, and maybe they win 9 games and they're able to get into the playoffs and they figure it out towards the end of the year. But I think they're going to have to go through some more crap in the first, 5 to 10 games of the season, because I don't think everything's flushed out. We always talk about like power, who's got control, who doesn't. Is it the owner? Is it the GM? Or is it the coach? And every organization is different. Orioles organization, it's clearly the GM, although maybe he should exercise more power over Brandon Hyde, but we're not going to do that today. But who's in charge, right? And the Cowboys, Jerry Jones in charge. Who's in charge in Philadelphia? It's the GM. It's Howie Roseman. And he didn't fire Sirianni, in my opinion, because he would have had to bring in an alpha head coach like Bill Belichick, and nobody wants to do that. That's why Belichick didn't get a job. I mean, think about it. If you're in charge of an organization and the owner says, hey, I trust you, you're in charge. You have direct access to the owner. Falcons GM, Eagles GM, direct access to the owner, been there forever. Owner, will listen to you. It's like, all right, here's what I want to do. I want to bring in somebody smarter than me to run the football team. No one says that. You don't, that's just not how you operate in the business world. You never say, well, I'm not good enough for this. Bring someone else in. That's just not what you do when you're the number one guy. You either get fired or you're going to put people in there that are beneath you that you can micromanage, like Nick Sirianni. Sirianni should have been fired. Hurts can't stand him. You can't put that together. Whoever's fault it is, doesn't matter. They can't work together. You're going to try to do it by bringing in Kellen Moore. I don't know. Both receivers are in the prime of their careers. They need the ball. Tight end needs the ball. A lot of mouths to feed. I don't think the Eagles get it done. So I'm going to bet the under 11 wins on the Eagles, over 8.5 with the Colts. I want to bet the Colts to win the division, but this Texans team, and then we'll stop on the Texans here because I haven't decided if I'm betting on the Texans. But I wanted to talk about this Texans team in relation to the Lions from last year, which is people are getting smarter betting on sports and we have a lot more information. Doesn't mean that you're going to win more, but it's a lot easier, I think, to bet on sports now just because you have more information at your disposal. Now, it's the same thing as politics or same thing as investing. Just because you have more information doesn't mean it's always the right information. There's a lot of misinformation. So you still have to do the work to kind of decipher through what's real and what's not. But the Lions last year, any football person that's getting paid to talk about football was screaming from the mountaintops, the Lions will be good, right? They finished the year by beating the Packers, knocked them out of the playoffs. Lions are going to be good. Like, bet the Lions. They have everything going for them. Bet the Lions. And a lot of times I want to zag, right? Like, I think a lot of people do. When you hear conventional thinking this day and age, you just automatically want to zag. There was nothing really to zag with the Lions unless you just want to bet against the head coach and the quarterback, which you could, but they proved capable last year. This Texans team is the same thing as the Lions from last year. You can't make an argument. You're going to be reaching to make arguments against this Texans team. They improved every weakness they have. Like, you can be a hater and not like them, or you can just zag because everybody's on the Texans. But it feels like the Texans are winning 11 games this year. I don't see a world where they don't. They added Diggs and they added Mixon on offense. So I don't know if I'm betting the Colts to win the division. I don't think I'm betting the Colts. I don't think. I know I'm not betting the Colts week one, even though I think they're going to win home against the Texans, because I love the Texans this year too. I think the best bet, and this will wrap up my football for today. I was looking on DraftKings. There's all these really wild bets, if you will, where you can like hedge certain opinions you have. So instead of betting, like for example, the bet that I want to talk about is you can bet which division is going to have the most wins. So AFC East, South, North, and West, 8 divisions, NFC as well. Can add the win total at the end of the year, just for each team, and whoever has the most wins that bet. And so they gave odds. What jumped out at me is the favorites, the AFC North at plus 225. It's just interesting to think about because it's pretty good odds. You go around the divisions, right? Could it be that team? Could it be this team? So the AFC North is favored at plus 225. The least favorite was the NFC South. I think it was like 18 to 1 or 17 to 1 on DraftKings. But the best value I thought was the AFC South at 14 to 1, because I see a world where the Colts and Texans get the double-digit wins. So if that happens, like, is it crazy that the Texans could win 13 games? I really don't think so. Like, there's 17 games now. Texans get 13, Colts get 10. Titans and Jaguars aren't terrible. It's hard to read those teams. I'm looking forward to diving deep on the Titans because I think they're one of the biggest mysteries of the season. But yeah, I like the AFC South at 14 to 1. I don't think that's a terrible bet. And I certainly like the Colts. So I'm big on the Colts this year, down on the Eagles. Those are my first two bets that I've already locked in. And we're doing this in real time together. It's my first football season doing this. So I want to be transparent about everything I'm doing. There's other places to get an NFL preview of a certain team. So I'm not going to spend the next 3 weeks going through each team and projecting every single thing. Just there's better places to go for that. What I want to do is is there a future bet gambling wise that with a particular team or a particular player that I'm excited about? Because there's so many injuries in football that I'm usually against a lot of player prop bets for the future, right? Like, I had a friend of mine who bet Spencer Strider's over strikeouts, the pitcher on the Braves, and he got hurt after like the fourth start this season. And there's just too many injuries. So to bet like the over touchdowns for Lamar or Josh Allen or some of those things just feels like, I don't know, not a fun bet. The bets that I like to make for the future are undervalued, either rookies or guys that haven't gotten paid. They're less likely to have the lingering issues, or the team bets, right? Player props. So I'm still going through everything, but as I was in my first round of going through everything, Shane Steichen jumps out at me for the Colts. and his absence jumps out at me for the Eagles. So those are the two bets I have. And I think that's about it for today. We'll get into some more stuff for tomorrow. Yeah, I think that's about it. Orioles, man, they got to get it rolling. They got to get it rolling. This feels like the week to get it rolling. Like it just does. The Red Sox, like I said, are falling apart. You beat up on the Nationals tonight and tomorrow, and then hopefully have a nice 3 out of 4 weekend against Boston. Everything's going in the right direction. I do want to spend 1 second on. I saw a tweet that was interesting that I think is worth like commenting on about Kobe Mayo. And the guy was like, go find all the accounts essentially that were clamoring for Mayo and now are saying that he should be sent down. And I feel like those kinds of tweets and those that like to make yourself sound superior intellectually and putting down others in like a straw man argument is so weak. It just is. Yeah, there's some people that would be saying that about Mayo, but you're basically just picking an argument, trying to make yourself sound, smarter than everyone else when there's plenty of people who are watching Kobe Mayo and saying, oh, there's certain things he could be doing better, certain things he could be doing worse. But, when you make the straw man argument by finding somebody that's just like screaming from the mountain, there's always morons. And I just think it's intellectually dishonest to try to make yourself sound like, you're the smart guy in the room, you're the reasonable guy in the room because Mayo's only had so many at bats. So go find all the people yelling. I don't know. I think that's kind of weak. So wanted to throw that out there because as I continue to make content and evolve, I just hate the idea of talking down to somebody. Like just because the microphone's on or you're the one talking, I just hate that. And a lot of this Orioles content is annoying to me because instead of criticizing the player or the manager, it's like criticizing the fans for their opinions. Just goofy to me. So, all right. Anywho, get out of here. I see you guys tomorrow. Pirates, Padres later tonight. Have my bets on that. And yeah, I'm not second guessing at all. Not doing these Orioles bets. Way more fun this way. And that's why I don't have 5-6 bets for the Padres each night because I don't have that same emotional feeling like, I have to bet this guy because I know he's going to get a hit tonight and I'm going to be pissed if he doesn't. Like those feelings are removed, which is probably why the record's a little bit better. So cool. Appreciate you guys. If you need anything, just message me, call me. I'm available. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the morning.